Since Greek antiquity, philosophers have fantasized about what humankind would do, be free to do, could we overcome the dominating force of physical labor and the need to gain our daily bread by the sweat of our brow. What would happen were plentiful food ever to become easy to attain on a mass basis? What would happen if mortality could be pacified such that 75 or 80 years of life could become the norm rather than the exception, and many of the commonest causes of early death and morbidity put away? Or if the tyrannical impulse of sexual desire could be separated from the labor of childbed and childbearing, and reproduction become a matter, say, of liberal choice? For those in the rich countries, like England and America, necessity has in fact been pacified to a degree unimaginable in earlier eras. But the consequence has not been true liberation, or a new upwelling of the impulses of justice or democracy, which you might think would be facilitated by such ease. Ever more urgent demands to work on yourself, new grounds for self-regulation, the push to add a fantasized additional year or 2 years to your lifespan, at some grave cost, I think, to really living those miraculous 75. Above all, grooming behaviors, to draw a term from the animal kingdom, but often raised to the level of a new morality. And I think this is opposed to a genuine reckoning with the problem of what we might do with a new moral freedom. I do think, for moral purposes at least, a guaranteed minimum income for all citizens may also require a maximum income, or a cap, as expressive of a shared underlying vision of the valuing of achievements and social freedom. I believe that if we should try to free people from super poverty, we should also try to free people from super wealth. Now, the value of a universal basic income is often allowed to become a matter of helping the worst off, as a matter implicitly, if not explicitly, of compassion, pity, charity, or perhaps prudence at best. We should be obliged to reduce misery. A rich society should not allow poverty to persist. No one should be without the money for a roof over his or her head. No one should be unable to afford 3 square meals, a right to minimum life, and freedom from fear and from want. For everyone should be an expense that all of us are willing to bear. I hope these will sound familiar. Even if we ourselves are rich, successful, competitive, and out for our own excellences. But I think it's a mistake to limit or misunderstand the full purposes of a universal citizen's income, given simply by virtue of being born or naturalized rather than for work or by desert, to this idea simply of remediation or charity. This allows a whole host of other impulses, often associated with an entrepreneurial or competitive or business culture, and associated especially with the values of competitive freedom, to seem to go a different way, as if universal minimum income were only about equality or safety. Well, I think that actually minimum income should be understood to be essential to those very reaches of human passions, to the production of excellence, of creativity, of real competition, and of inequality on its, say, good side. We may be tempted to think of minimum income as a collectivist gesture. I think it is absolutely essential, I would say to those tempted to oppose it, really for individualism, for true individualism, perhaps for any individualism worth the name in our society. It allows the emergence of forms of just and genuine recognition of unequal talents, energy, skill, and genius, because for once, inequality would not just be measured in money and dominated by money and by need. It would be set free, and you thus could really enjoy morally relevant inequality. For once, discovering yourself to be superior while not pressing down on the neck of somebody else. And this is also why income caps are needed, as I hope you'll see. I want to begin with the proposition that a purpose of life, or say of life in liberal society, is individualism. And individualism is the project of making your own life as appealing as you can, as remarkable as you like, without the encumbrances of an unfair society, an unequal society, which renders your successes undeserved. Government is the outside corrective that leaves us free for life. Let us imagine for a moment that government were to give every citizen a total of £10,000 a year, paid as a monthly award in recognition simply of being an adult in the United Kingdom. Indulge me in imagining, too, that we were to add a tax bracket of 100% to cut off individual income at a fixed ceiling, allowing any individual to bring home a maximum of £100,000 a year from all sources, and no more. These two measures of the redistribution of income help to dissolve the two portions of society whose existence has long been antithetical to democracy and to civilization, and which harm, too, the members of each of those classes, the obscenely poor and the absurdly rich. Each group must be helped. That means not only ending poverty, but ending absurd wealth. Obscene poverty doesn't motivate the poor or please the rest of us. It makes the poor desperate, criminal, and unhappy. Absurd wealth doesn't help the rich or motivate the rest of us. It makes the rich, for the most part good, decent, hardworking, and talented people, into selfish, guilty parties responsible for social evil. It is cruel to rig our system to create these extremes and cast fellow citizens into the two sewers that border the national road. For all of us, both super wealth and super poverty make individual achievement trivial and unreal, and finally destroy the liberal principles of hard work and just deserts. Luckily, well, perhaps, eradicating one, individual super wealth, can help us perhaps to eradicate the other, super poverty.